Hello everybody, it is Joe Granato. Welcome to the brand new NESmaker 4.1.0 tutorials. These specific tutorials are going to show off how to start creating with the base modules the easy way. Alright, let's jump back in time to a few months ago when we released an adventure game tutorial. We're going to recreate that using 4.1.0 in blazing speed. So check this out. I'm going to open up 4.1.0. And we are going to make a new project, blank tile set called Adventure. And I'm going to choose the Adventure module. Now, I say this a third time. These are not the end-all, be-all of modules. This is just a random group of scripts that we've put together that can do the basic thing of an adventure game. If you want to make your epic Legend of Zelda-like game, it's going to take a lot more work than this, and you're going to have to really dig into what this software can do. But to get up and started in under 20 minutes, this is one way that you can do it and then start learning how the tool actually operates. Okay, everything said? Okay, good. Okay, so now I've got an adventure game base where my scripts have loaded in, and you'll even see that some of them say adventure game. Awesome. I'm going to load in my tile sets by going to import. Yes, I want to overwrite all of them, and I want to use, I'm in my tutorials, adventure game tile sets. Awesome. To make sure that that actually loaded, I'm going to go to pixel editor, I'm going to go to open, and yes, that is my adventure game tile set. So let's load the rest of the elements that make up this game. First of all, my assets. I'm going to right click on assets, import assets, and I'm going to bring in the adventure assets. I have a bunch of nice assets right here. Now I'm going to bring in my palettes by going to all palettes, import adventure palettes, and then I'm going to go to monster palettes. I'm going to right click, import object palettes. I'm going to go to my input editor. I'm going to import my input links. Now I'm going to go to my monsters, right click, oh, I'm sorry, not right click, monster, import all monsters, adventure monsters. It's just two, it's just an NPC and a slime. And then last but not least, I'm going to bring in all of my objects. So player, I'm going to import my player. We can see that 0, 1, 8, 9, 0 is my player. 1 is my magic. Effect 0 is 8, so oops. Effect 0 is 8. I'm going to import player death and import monster death. And now I'm set up to start building some screens. The one thing I am going to teach you guys right now is I can actually build asset groups. Since I'm going to have an above ground overworld and an underworld, I'm going to make some asset groups here. I'm going to right click on asset groups, add, and I'm going to call this one right click, and I'm going to rename this one overworld, and I'm going to right click and add, and I'm going to call this one underworld. And this can really help if you get like these really unruly lists of assets. I'm just going to take my overworld, drop in overworld, my tree, my block, and then my underworld. I would just drop, the ground. Now I'm not going to go through it. I'm not going to do them all, but you can see how I can actually start organizing these. Same thing with palettes. I need to make sure, actually, I'm going to use more than one palette. I need to actually make some palette groups. So here in palettes, I'm going to right click and add 2 palette groups. One of them is going to be overworld pals, and one of them is going to be underworld pals. And I can just drag my overworld into overworld and my underworld into underworld. Awesome. Okay, so that's necessary. The step with the assets is not, but the palettes will be if I want to use more than one palette in the game. So I'm going to go to my overworld, and I'm just going to arbitrarily pick this screen. Okay, this one. Yeah, sure. And now I've got my overworld. I'm going to set up, I'm going to put a couple trees in here. Let's block out the top with trees. Oops. There we go. Awesome. So now I've got a nice beginning to a forest. I'm also going to go to my HUDs and boxes. And there's a couple things I need to set up here. First of all, just like the other ones, use sprite 0 hit with sprite index 127. H blank wait time 1. X is going to be about 246, and Y is going to be about 30. And we can see it's drawing our sprite 0 right there, which splits our HUD between the HUD and the part of the game, and that allows us to be able to scroll with this module. With the user variables, I'm going to do keys and health. So I'm going to set up my health is going to be variable tiles. It's going to have a max value of 5, I guess. Full tile is going to be a heart. Empty tile is going to be an X. Again, please make sure that you set both the full and empty tiles. Otherwise, it's going to crash your HUD. I'm going to put this over here and down a little bit. I'm going to make a thing that says health. It's going to be text type of element that says the word health. And that's going to be right down on top of the health. The other thing I have to do is I need to make sure that these match. Like if I want to start with 5 health, I need to go into my health and I need to say the initial value is going to be 5. And I also want to go to my game object for my player so that these are synced. And I want to say, okay, I want you to start at 5 health, which it already does. So now the display is showing 5 at the beginning of the game and my player's got 5 at the beginning of the game. And I'm also going to set up, like I said, keys, which was 4. And I want that to be represented in numbers. Max value of 2. And I'm going to just use one of these, any of these, and call it, or use a string and call it keys. Pop it right over the top of the keys. So now I've got my HUD set up for this module, and I've got a beginning of a screen. I'm going to right click and place my player right there. I did not import my, yes I did. Okay, good. I did get my inputs. Wonderful. So now I should be able to jump right in, and I should be able to at least move around in my maze game screen. Just to demonstrate that this is set up similarly, I just pressed right, which made a screen over here using the number 1 tile set and palette and everything like that. So I'm going to make a edge of the world over here. And in fact, I believe that I've got path graphics in this. So let me set up a path. We haven't talked about paths. I do. Oh, wonderful. So I've got 2 paths. I'm going to use this one is going to be just a normal walkable path. And this one is going to be water, which is going to be not walkable. So I'm going to make it solid. And I'm going to call this grassland paths or something like that. Save it. Awesome. So now I can go to my overworld. And I could actually start drawing paths. So my player starts there. Hey, you're supposed to go on this dirt path over here. And oops, and there's water over here, so you can't go this way. Right? Water was under 2. And, oh, I'm sorry. I never set the paths. So in the screen, I have to set the paths. And now everything will, there we go. Now it'll respect the collision data and the palettes. So there we go. And then on this screen, I will do the same thing, screen info, grassland paths. And there we go, awesome. And this dirt path continues over, and this is where I'm going to put my guy who's going to give me my sword. So let me test this real quick. And now I'm stopped by the solid objects. I can walk to the right, and I'm in this screen, and I can walk back to the left, and I'm in this screen. Awesome. So let me add the NPC who's going to give me what I want. But before I do that, let me make sure I set my emulator. I noticed that was in the old emulator. Go to desktop, go to NES stuff, go to Messin. Awesome. That's the emulator that I will be using. I'm going to go to desktop. 4.1.0 game engine data game.nes. That's the file you want to open. So there we go. And let's build a monster group. Minimize some of these. Let's build a monster group. And let's put an NPC. Let's put all NPCs. We'll call it NPCs. And I will put them in one of them in this room. I is tell the game that I want to use NPCs and color. And let's put them right here. Place NPC. Now, in order to actually talk to this guy, I need to give him something to say. Now, he's the one who's going to give me my sword. So let's make a text string. And in that text string, oh, this is another really cool new feature. So check this out. I need to make my text box area. Let's say I make it, let's put it at the top of the screen, just like that. I'm going to make that my text box area. Just this little, actually I made it wider. So that's going to be my text box area. Now, when I go to text, now that I've set an area, this shows me how many characters I actually have. So I can actually construct exactly what it'll look like inside that text box. So like if I want to leave a space, I could start there. Here is a sword. Do not have an apostrophe in this set. Do not poke yoreth eye out, kid. At the end of this, instead of having no action, I'm going to have him give us an item, and the item is going to be the first object, the first weapon, the first unlockable, which is a sword in this case. And I could change the name of that if I needed to remember that. We're going to look at that in more advanced tutorials. So let me go make sure that this text group is assigned. So I go to overworld, and if I right click and go to edit monster placement details, I can actually see the text that this guy will give me, this monster number 1 that I've got placed. So let's test that, and let's see if I can unlock my sword. Pressing B, pressing B, pressing B, nothing, pressing B. Now, I talk to him. Here's a sword. Don't poketh your eye out, kid. And I've got a sword. Now, just like in the other tutorial, we can see what the problem is. I haven't set my offsets for my weapon yet. No problem. This is pretty easy. I click where it says game objects, and that brings up, I didn't open it, I just clicked on game objects. That brings up my offsets. This time I do need 4 directions. So just because I kind of know this is, it's about 15, 16 across, about 22 down for down. It's about where that one is. For right, it's about 24 across and about 16 down. Can you tell I've worked with this a little bit? If I use up, it's about 15 over and maybe a little bit down, maybe 1 or 2 down. And then left is just going to be 16 down. Awesome. So now if I test that, my sword, when I get it, will be in the right place. And when I create a magic spell, it'll be in the right place. So I'll come over here, talk to the dude, get my sword, and there we go. And not only that, but that set a trigger. So if I walk off the screen and come back, he's gone. I never told it what objects to have here if I triggered the screen. So there's no player objects there. There's no monsters. So he goes away. And anything else here that was dependent on a trigger, if I had tiles that triggered, would go away. All right, so now let's talk about going, underground here. I'm in my overworld. Let's make another screen here. Let's set this up to have grassland paths and okay, and I will use a tree here, and I'll make this the edge of the world this way. Everything's so square in this world. All right, and here's where I'm going to have a warp to another screen. And I need to tell it what screen. I'm going to actually use the Underworld map for this. We're going to come back to this screen in a second. If I use my Underworld map, just pick an arbitrary screen. How about this one? Okay. This is going to be my Underworld, so I'm not going to use tile set 0. I'm going to use tile set 1, and I'm not going to use overworld palettes. I'm going to use Underworld palettes. So here I'm just going to make a, sort of like my maze game, I'm going to make a, make kind of a blocked in room here. We're just doing this quick, so I'm not going to get crazy. What I am going to do is maybe have my wizard who gives me my magic spell locked away. So what I'll do is I'm going to put a lock on the door, put a key over here, and have a monster running around. And this is my stairwell to get back up. So I am going to make a new group and a new text string. My new text string is going to say, let's see, I am an enchanter. There are some who call me Tim. And he's going to give you magic. So NPC gives item, and the item he's going to give me is the second object, which is my magic. And what I'm going to do with my group here. So for my monster group, I'm sorry, real quick, text group, I need to make sure that I have 1, 2. So 1 is a sword, 2 is going to be I'm an enchanter. All right. Monster groups. I'm going to make a monster group that starts with slime, but also has an NPC in it like that. And the reason I put the NPC second is that I want it to activate the second text string in that group. So slimes and NPC is the group. And I'm going to go to this Underworld. And I'm going to screen info, slimes and NPCs. Awesome. My NPC is stuck back here. I think he's going to be over the text box, but that's okay. We'll talk about how to deal with that another time. Place an NPC. And we'll place a slime in here. And just in case, let's do this. Let's make it a slime, and let's make this an NPC, like that. Okay, so now I need to link the rooms. What screen? Let's see, where do I want them to come in on this screen? I want them to come in like here. So there would be 10, 11. So I need to remember that. Go to screen info. My warp in location is 10. 11. And this screen, by the way, is, if I look up here, it is 9, 5. So if I come here and I say, where do I want this to warp out to? First of all, it's going to go to 9, 5, but 5, 6, 8 is where I'll emerge from. Screen info, I want to warp into, in fact, he's going to be, yeah, we'll do that. Okay, 6, 8. Sometimes it's better to move him a little bit away from the stairwell so he's not touching the stairwells. There's some other ways to handle it, like make him not able to go into the stairs for a couple seconds, or something like that. There's lots of ways to handle it. This is just an easy way. If I remember right, it was screen 9, 5 is where I'm going to be warping to, and it's going to be warping to the underground map. So that's cool. Now he's going to not go to 9, 5 here, which would be this screen. He's going to go instead to this screen. And when he's in that screen, he needs to warp to 4, 5. So he's in the screen, and he's going to warp out to 4, 5. Awesome. So let's test this all out. Let's get my sword. Let's come in here. Let's see if I can save my wizard so I can get my spell. All right, we'll come over here and we'll get our sword. Try. No sword. Oh, poor woe is me. Here's a sword. Do not poke with your eye out, kid. Okay, now I've got a sword, and I'm going to come down here and head to the warp, and here I am. Now, where did everybody go? The problem is this screen is the same screen type as the other one. So what happened was, if I look, this screen type right here is screen type 0. Also, if I go to Underworld, this screen is screen type 0. So it flipped to where all the things that would change if I triggered the screen were changed. All I have to do is make this a different screen type. Just screen type 1, hit OK. Make sure that stayed. Okay. Now when I play it, when I get there, it won't have triggered. This screen triggers. And to demonstrate what I mean by triggers, come back, he's gone, right? Go into the warp. Okay, now they're there. Now I can get my key and unlock his door. Oops. My collision box is a little broad there. I'm an enchanter. There's someone who called me Tim, and now I've got my fireball. Hurrah! Okay, so that takes me right back out, and I'll notice the screen. Cool. So now I'd come back here, and I'd be able to go on with my adventure. So that's a quick look at how we've gotten started creating our adventure game and some of the specifics. There's a lot of functionality that you can get just out of what was shown right there, and there's even more that's implicit in this module. I hope that that's a great start to get some people started in just messing around and building a little adventure game where they're running around and killing monsters and getting a sword and fireballs and things like that. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with, and I definitely encourage you to go through these and move on to the intermediate tutorials to really bring your visions to life.